Welcome to the Dr. Diane Show, where we explore revolutionary expansion of mind, body, and soul with me, Dr. Diane Hayden. With over 20 years of expertise as a mindset warrior, perspective shifter, and unshakable optimist, I am dedicated to helping you reach your wildest dreams in business, health, performance, and relationships. Learn about the power of thought and how it shapes your life to take risks, change careers, find love, go on adventures, and live passionately with me, Dr. Diane. Get ready for revolutionary ways of thinking, being, and creating an amazing life. The Dr. Diane Show starts now. Hey everyone, I am Dr. Diane Hayden, and you are listening to the Dr. Diane Show on Transformation Talk Radio. Stay with us for the next hour where we will explore revolutionary expansion of mind, body, and soul. Each time on the show, we have experts from around the country discussing cutting-edge topics on longevity medicine, natural health, mindset, and soul purpose to help you shift your perspective and become a mindset warrior like me. I'm excited today to have Julie Bailis on with me. She is a nationally board certified health coach, strength and functional fitness coach, and menopause specialist. She is the founder of Mountain View Wellness, a women's health coaching collective that helps women over 40 gain strength, energy, and confidence through a holistic approach to fitness, nutrition, and lifestyle change. With a background in powerlifting and a passion for breaking free from diet culture, Julie empowers women to take control of their health, embrace midlife, and build sustainable habits for lifelong wellness. So welcome, Julie. How are you today?
Thank you. I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm good. So this has got to be one of my favorite topics because I am a huge strength trainer. I've been doing it since I was like 23 or 24.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm constantly yelling at women to do this. And we're gonna break, like, you've got like a lot of myths that that you and I are gonna bust and all that kind of good stuff. So we'll get into all of that. But I wanted to start with just like a little bit of intro into, who you are and how you got into this and why is this your passion?
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I knew this question was coming, and there are so many different ways to attack it. You could ask me one day, I'm going to answer one way. I would probably say motherhood is what pushed me over the edge, the mental health edge. And I realized that my husband traveled a lot and I was taking care of our kids. And I just really felt this deep loss of self and realized, when you're in the grocery store and your kids are there and grandmas come up to you and say, enjoy every moment. And I was like, crying. I can't. It was really hard for me to manage that. But it was one day when I realized I just wasn't myself and I was pretty depressed. And I told my husband, like, I'm having some thoughts that aren't very good. I remember driving in my neighborhood by a reservoir and thinking like I could just kind of like hit the reset button, really like the thought. And I thought I've never had this thought before. I'm a really naturally upbeat person. But I went home and I told my husband, I just had a really scary thought and then I just, said, I'm not happy. I really feel like I can't enjoy my kids. And he said, just go, do something. I said, when you give me time off, I just, go to Stop and Shop and I sit in my car because I literally just had nothing else I was just the mom. Right. And then I started going to a yoga class once a week. And that was something, and it started off as just something to do, right? Besides sitting in my car at Stop and Shop. But it was that movement that made me feel better because I've always been very active like you. And sitting in like that last posture, Shavasana, I remember one time thinking like, who's this person? I remember her. This is Julie, not the mom, not the wife. This is just like my essence. So I got a sense of that. And I thought, I want to give this to more women to know that this one activity could be your lifeline to get you through to the other side of motherhood or a really tough time. So then I became a certified yoga teacher. And I would say that was one of the beginnings to taking care of myself. And then also my career in working with women and promoting self-care and creating a community of support. Yeah.
Well, that's a great story.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's so many women out there that are going to identify with that totally.
Yeah.
And I love how you tell, the part about the older women coming up to you in the grocery store, because I'm sure that happens all the time. And like, and if, obviously they're meaning well because they probably were in your place at one point, and for whatever reason, when you're in it, it's like time goes so slowly, and then it's like you blink your eye and your kids are 20. I mean, it's
Yeah.
crazy, right? So that's the perspective they're coming from, right? But when you're in it, it's like, yeah, I can't even see tomorrow, let alone like my kid being 20.
Yeah. I was
And
sleep deprived and having a really tough time. Yeah.
yeah. So it's interesting that you got into yoga first, and then so that led you into strength training.
Well, I had been, so yeah, yoga. And then I started CrossFit probably about 12 years ago. And I don't know why I started CrossFit. I think I just wanted to do something different. And I loved yoga. But I started CrossFit and I loved the balance between the yoga and the CrossFit. When I started CrossFit, that really like high intensity stuff, I was learning new movements, I was learning new language, I was totally into it. But my yoga practice became a lot softer. I got into like yin yoga and relaxing, and that was where the balance was. Because I found myself going to these hot vinyasa classes, coming out cranky.
Yeah,
Which is too much.
exactly. I don't know how people do that.
No, it was too much, like just too much heat for me. Like it was too much intensity and I had no place to like release. I needed more balance. So that's when my yoga practice got a lot softer. So I had this background in CrossFit. I owned a yoga studio for many years. And then when the pandemic happened, we had to close the yoga studio. No one was coming to breathe with strangers in a room
Right.
during a pandemic, right?
True.
And we had an older clientele. They were not having Zoom. They were like, nope, I want to see you in person. So I had a bunch of girlfriends my age that said, look, work is crazy. Can you just do like an online like fitness class? So it was kind of like a HIIT, yoga, kind of CrossFit mix. Again, the repeated mantra is community, Julie, community. So then I created a little community online. I thought, this is great. Um, and then I started getting more into this idea of like, what does fitness look like for me now? During the pandemic, I don't know about the rest of y'all, but I was definitely day drinking and not sleeping well and in the middle of perimenopause. So I was doing all these things and putting on some weight and not feeling good. And a friend of mine just so happened to, we were out hanging out. She had a bracelet on her wrist. I said, what's that from? She said, oh, I went to a powerlifting meet. And I was like, tell me more about this powerlifting. Because that was like, has always been like a bucket list thing. I've done CrossFit competitions. I like to train for stuff. Mm-hmm. And that week, I went to the local powerlifting gym and I said, I want to coach. I want to learn about this. Let's do it. And that was in 2022. I did my first powerlifting meet. I loved the training of it. It was really, really amazing. So different than a CrossFit class. It was custom to me. I could see myself getting better with the movements every week. And the more I researched perimenopause, menopause, the more I realized that this style of training is so needed. Not just because of muscle loss and building bone density, but to have like, to look at your program and to see every week, I'm getting better at this. This is moving better. I'm getting stronger because so many, honestly, of us use the scale. How am I doing? Let's check out the scale. Am I going to have a good day or a bad day? Scale, you tell me, right?
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
it was just another way to break free of that scale, to say, hey, did I show up for myself this week? Oh, look at that. That lift is getting so much easier. And to have a coach, be coaching me specifically on things. And then even when I'm not training for a powerlifting meet, when I go through my cycling season, my coach says, okay, let's switch up your programming. And I need, like so many people, to have things change up. I'm kind of a seasonal person, but I became a huge fan of custom programming and progressive overload. And everybody's different. Some women are going to love, going to the class and getting something totally different. But I am a firm believer that many, many of us could really benefit from seeing that progressive overload and seeing us get stronger and use that as another indicator of health and well-being.
Well, I love that you brought up the fact that you power lift, because that is going to be one of the myths that I'm going to bust right now, is that every time I tell women like that I've been strength training for years or whatever, and that they should lift weights, blah, 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 notoriously the response is, oh, I don't want to get big, bulky muscles. And I'm like, well, I've been doing this for 20 years. Do I look like I have huge, like bulky muscles?
Right.
No.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's one of the things is like, it's so important so my background is a doctor in exercise physiology. Most people know that, but my dissertation was actually on strength training in the elderly. And
Love it.
so when I was in my 20s, I learned then that it doesn't matter whether you're a female or whether you're 80 or 90 years old, you can still build muscle, but you're not going to get huge and bulky like overnight by lifting, by starting to lift weights. And people think that.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's one of the things that, we need to bust that myth. And also, I hear people say now that are like in their 50s or 60s, oh, it's too late for me to start doing that. So what's your response to that?
Hell no.
Exactly.
It's never too late. It is not. It's so funny that you say that, Diane, because I remember talking to one of my clients. She's 73, and I had this talk with her about 6 months ago. And I'm also a health coach, and one of her goals was to increase her protein intake, because many of us are just not eating enough, right? So you identify what protein is, how does it help our bodies, and she kept on kind of missing her mark. And I said, why are we doing this? And she said, well, I'm not really sure because I'm too old to put on muscle. And I thought, oh, where did you hear that? And she said, I heard it somewhere on social media.
Oh, great.
But she's not going to stick to this goal if she thinks it's all for naught.
Well, right.
So, yeah. So just like busting that, I said, no, honey, that's not true at all. You could actually even build muscle.
Right. Yeah. And that's exactly right. And that's what my dissertation showed, that these women were, and men as well, but they ranged anywhere from, I think, late 60s to our oldest was probably like 85.
Oh.
And I've even seen studies that have come out now showing women who are 90 are still able to put on muscle. So it's absolutely a myth that it's too late. Any age is too late. Like you said, it doesn't matter. Like any age, if you're given the right nutrients, nutrition, all of that, and you're doing the right program, you can absolutely reverse the muscle loss and put muscle back on. So this is fascinating. One of the things I love to talk about. We're going to take a quick break. You are listening to the Dr. Diane Show with me, Dr. Diane Hayden. When we come back, we will explore more with Julie Bailis. She's a board certified health coach. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. We're back on the Dr. Diane Show with me, Dr. Diane Hayden. But before we continue, I want to make sure everyone knows how to contact me. You can find me at www.drdianehayden.com or either of my two publications, www.naturalnutmeg.com or www.essentialnaples.com. And you can learn more about Julie Bailis at www.mvwct.com. That's M as in Mark, V as in Victor, W as in water, C as in cat, T as in Tom.com. So before we just went to break, we were talking about some myths that we're going to bust together, Julie. We were talking about like one is that I'm going to get huge and bulky if I start lifting weights. Another one is it's too late for me, like I might be in my 50s or 60s or 70s or whatever. And it's, we can only build muscle up to a certain point in time. And that's not true at all. There's plenty of studies out there that will show you that women even up to 90 years old, and who knows, I don't even know if there's, they have lengthened that, but as people are living longer, we might see that, even later than that, people can build with muscle. But strength training is really one of the most effective ways to not only improve metabolism, but bone health, but also to help lose weight. And that's the next myth I'm going to get to, is that people would always say to me, well, I don't have time to strength train. I have to do cardio because I'm trying to lose weight. And so the only way to lose weight is to do cardio. So what do you tell them when you hear that one?
Um, I say that strength training is going to help you build muscle, and having that muscle will help you increase your metabolism. It will help you with functional fitness as well. A lot of my clients like, yeah, I want to lose weight, but I also want to be able to get down on the floor and get back up. Mm-hmm. And you need strength to do that. Like no matter how much time on the treadmill you spend, strength training is going to help you just function better in the world. Strength training along with the muscle build will help you burn that fat, that kind of way. Not that we necessarily burn fat, but it helps us reduce injury. So there are a lot of pluses to strength training. A lot of people think that they need the cardio, but I would start with strength.
Yeah, and I think that that's partially the fault of media, like mainstream media, or even whether it's something that you saw on a show or in a magazine or wherever. There was this huge promotion, um, basically to always to do cardio. Like you go to your doctor, you need to lose weight. That's what they tell you. Cardio, 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 cardio. It's like that's all we heard for how many years, right? I mean, and so that's what people grew up believing, that you basically had to do cardio if you wanted to lose weight. Nobody was talking about strength training. And
Right.
now we've learned that it's, in fact, I think sometimes cardio can be detrimental to us because you might end up burning more muscle than you burn fat, depending on how much cardio you're doing, the type of it, that kind of thing. So, strength training, you know, when you build muscle, that muscle requires more energy to move. And that's why we end up burning more fat. We burn more calories when we have more muscle because
Definitely.
we require more energy to move. And I don't think that that knowledge is really out there.
No, no. And then even when clients start to build muscle and they may see the scale go up and they say, oh my God, Julie,
Uh-oh.
it's going up. What the hell? What's going on? I did this
Like
so I
that,
could lose weight,
like that freaking number is so important. It's
right?
like, who cares?
Yeah, the other day, actually, one of my coaches was lifting and she broke the scale that was in the gym. That scale shouldn't belong in the gym anyway. And I actually took pictures. And we're like, yay! That scale should not dictate how, what kind of day you're going to have, right? But
Right.
it does for so many women. So when I have a client and the scale's going up, I ask questions like, well, how's your energy? How's your mood? How do your clothes fit you? And
Right.
chances are all of that is better. When you think about athletes, oftentimes they are heavier, like scale wise. If you do like a BMI thing, they have a really high BMI because they're short and they're compact, or maybe not short,
Exactly.
but they're much
Right.
more compact.
Right. And health, like the traditional, health things will tell you that a high BMI is unhealthy, like dangerous. And it's so funny because it's like, no, you have to take into factor muscle. You can't just look at BMI and just say like, oh, that person's obese because they have a BMI of XYZ. What's like, it's just like, like in nutrition, the standard American diet, just get rid of that, right? Like if there's some of these ridiculous measurements that we have still in health and fitness that we need to get rid of.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, and there's one more that I hear a lot of people. So I'm in my mid 50s. So now I hear a lot of women talking about this. Menopause means that I'm going to gain weight and I'm just, not going to be able to. This is like the start of the decline, right? I'm not going to be able to do things I want to do. I won't have, I won't be as flexible or be able to do as much exercise or blah, blah, blah. So what do you say to that?
Yeah, it's so many women are like, I'm in perimenopause or menopause. It's the beginning of the end. It's all
Right.
downhill from there. I won't be able to do X, Y, Z, and I firmly believe that like this is the beginning of the beginning. This is a new chapter. Actually, I just wrote a post about how I hear a lot. I'm doing all the same things, but my body is, responding differently. I'm gaining weight. I'm like, you're doing all chances are you're not doing all the same things that you have over the years because you're a different person, but your body is different. And instead of dreading these upcoming years, like, oh God, what's going to happen? I'm going to like not be able to do X, Y, Z. I'm going to gain all this weight. Think about it as an opportunity to get your together.
Yeah.
You know, get your root together and think about your lifestyle. Maybe it's your opportunity to say, maybe I want to, take control of my nutrition. Maybe I want to join that gym and start moving more. This is my opportunity to really begin to prioritize my health and well-being, because I was just kind of skating by for a while. And now it's my chance to take charge.
I think it's also mindset, right? Like, I have I have a lot of friends that will say to me like, "Oh, it's easy for you," or, I mean, like I'm 5 feet tall and like, 100, 105 pounds. And I think just because people, you might be petite or whatever, people look at you like, "Oh, well, it's just easy for you. You don't understand." And I'm like, well, you know what? I work my butt off. I mean, I'm in the gym probably 5 or 6 days a week, whether it's lifting weights probably 4 days a week, and then other times I might be doing like 1 or 2 cardio days, or I'm walking every day, or I'm doing something like yoga or flexibility or what, some type of activity, that kind of thing. And I think it's also my mindset. Like I just, when I would hear people talk about, menopause and fit changes and that kind of thing, my mindset was like, yeah, that's not happening to me. Like that was just my mindset. Like, no, I'm not signing up for that. I'm not going into it thinking that all that stuff is going to happen to me.
Right.
And can I say that, I've skated through it? No, absolutely not. Like, yeah, I have had hot flashes, but they're not anywhere near what some of my friends have who don't exercise and don't lift weights and, or don't eat as healthy as I do. I've had other things that I think are hormonally related. Like I've talked about, different heart rhythm issues that I've had that I think are absolutely because of menopause. But I do things now. I meditate. I work on my mindset. The exercise helps. Like I take things out of my diet that I think might be causing that. So, it's not easy for me. But I think what has helped is definitely having that mindset that I'm not just going into it laying down like, okay, well, that, like you said, that's it. I just have to accept that I'm this age and all these things are going to happen to me. Everything's going to change. I'm going to gain weight. I'm not going to feel good or blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, I'm not buying into that.
Right.
And I think that, who knows, like you'd have to do like a parallel study, right? Where I did things completely differently. You will never know. Was it my mindset? Was it my genetics? Was it what I do in my lifestyle? Is it a combination of all three? Probably. I don't
Yes.
know. But I think a lot of it is just the way that you think, right? Like, well, if you think that, then it's probably going to happen.
Yeah.
Or if you think that you're not accepting that that's the way it's going to go, then maybe it won't go that way and you will have a much easier time.
Yeah. With menopause, genetics does play a role, lifestyle plays a role, but within lifestyle is your mindset. No one wants to sign up for a mindset coach. It's kind of a tough sell, right? But and I tell my coaches that like nobody signs up for mindset coaching, but you do it, right? So it's like, how are we going to go through this, ladies? And we've seen with our members, going in like, oh, I got to do something, and then they start prioritizing themselves and switching the mindset. Like, hey, instead of saying I'm going to do all of these things all at once, when people decide they're going to change their lives, they're going to do one thing or two things, and they're going to do it as well as they can. And there's the mindset shift there, is taking small bites and doing exactly what you can do on that day, on that week.
Yeah, I think that's really important too, because if someone comes to you who hasn't ever exercised or hasn't really changed their diet, doesn't really do anything from a meditative perspective or yoga or, mindset work, right? You can't throw all of that at them at once, right? It's got to be like, okay, let's start with one thing, right? Like make one change. And then, okay, now once you've mastered that, now maybe we can move to incorporating something else. But you'd be surprised, I think, just by making one change in one area. I'm sure you've had great success with people who've done
Amazing.
even just that. Yeah.
Amazing. I mean, one of my coaches, she used to be a client. She's still a client, but she was a coach. She was in a job where she wouldn't even take a break. She wouldn't even go to the bathroom. And, for weeks, her job was just go outside during your break, walk outside the building and walk back in. And that slowly turned into her taking longer breaks, her bringing lunch, her finally quitting that job.
Yeah.
But people are amazed with what one small step can do.
Yeah, for sure. And even walking, I'm glad that you mentioned that because it's so funny. I actually was working with a personal trainer a couple of years ago just to do, just to vary up my routine and do something different. And he was like, you won't believe how much success I've had just having women start out walking. Like literally, I'm not putting them on a crazy diet. I'm not, look, do eat whatever you've been eating.
Mm-hmm.
You're not doing any crazy exercise. I'm just going to have you walk. And it's something as simple as that to reduce stress that then, starts getting the metabolism ramped up. So we're going to talk a lot more about this. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be talking more with Julie Bailis. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Show with me, Dr. Diane Hayden, and I'm talking today with Julie Bailis. You can learn more about her at her website, www.mvwct.com. That's spelled M as in mountain, V as in view, W as in wellness, C as in cat, T as in Tom.com. So I want to shift now to kind of giving a picture as to what it's like for someone to work with you. Like basically when a woman comes to you or to your center, what is it like? Like how would you start with them and sort of what are the things that you teach them and help them in terms of, regardless of what their goals are. Like you specialize in helping women over 40, midlife, maybe people that are in menopause, but just give us an idea of what it's like to work with you.
Well, we have two components to our program. The first one is strength training. That's a must. I create the program for the clients, and they can either do them at home, so we do remote work, or they can train at our center. So I'll create their strength training program, but we also have a collective of health coaches, so they'll also get assigned a one-on-one coach. And the first meeting is really sitting down with your coach and filling out what we call a healthy habits form, and that gives us a good read on the 6 domains of your lifestyle. So we talk about how lifestyle change can really help your whole life, but especially if you're going through menopausal things, to make some lifestyle shifts to help kind of ease some of those symptoms and just feel better about your whole life in general. The 6 domains that we talk about are obviously strength training, which we already have dialed in with the program. Daily movement, what we were just talking about, right? How many steps do you get? How active are you? And some people will be like, I got that dialed in. I'm on my feet all the time. This feels great. And a lot of ours, especially our remote work members, are working from home and know that they want to move more, but they know that they're going to benefit from having a coach to kind of hold them accountable and to help them, support them through these lifestyle changes. So we've got strength training, we have daily movement, nutrition. And nutrition, not as in like diets. We don't do diet plans. We don't do yo-yo, like hack diets. We really sit down and say, what does your nutrition look like? What do you need help with? Are you getting XYZ nutrients? So as coaches, we always ask the client, what are you ready, willing, and able to do? Mm-hmm. So we've got nutrition, sleep, huge one. So many of us are having problems with sleep. I know the phone is a huge part of that. But if we're not getting enough sleep, our hunger levels tend to go up, our stress hormones tend to go up, we're not fresh for the next day, and we're just kind of depleted. And that can be, actually, if we're talking about fat loss, that can be a game changer when people just begin to prioritize their sleep more. Stress management. How are you dealing with stress? Because we know when stress is up, we tend to go for the highly processed food. Night snacking is a big one. When we can dial in that stress, get that stress level down, often through strength training and our daily walks, our life gets just a lot easier and more enjoyable. And then the last domain is mindset, which we were just talking about, right? A lot of our clients were always on the lookout for all or nothing thinking, which is so many people have,
Yep.
Well, I don't have time for an hour-long workout, so I'm just going to skip it. Right? How about we do some of it? We call it all or something thinking. When we see our members shifting from all or nothing to all or something, big gains, huge gains. Mindset like self-compassion. We're oftentimes the voices in our head are just not nice to ourselves. So as coaches, we can have that conversation. And that's what's really special to me about coaching women, because it's really easy to have those conversations.
I love that you're looking at like all those different aspects. So
Mhm.
strength training, movement, nutrition, sleep, stress reduction, and mindset. I mean, that to me like covers all the bases, honestly.
Yeah.
And I think what's great about it in terms of the way that you do it also is that you're not forcing someone to fit into this one size, fits all box of the way that something maybe that worked for you, let's say,
Right.
that may not work for someone else, right?
Nope.
Um, so I think that's really, really awesome. How do you find that when you're working with these women from the nutrition standpoint, and you're not giving them diets, but do you find that most of them do have what they need to be doing dialed in and you just have to tweak a little bit? Or how are you dealing with a situation like, let's say someone's just absolutely not getting enough protein?
Um, if they're not getting enough protein, we talk about what protein is, what are some sources of protein, and how can they, one of the goals is to have some protein at each meal.
Mhm.
What might that look like for you? But to be honest, most people that are having some issues with protein or with nutrition are like letting life happen to them. So dinner, they're thinking about dinner 20 minutes before they need to eat. Right? And that's like the worst time. It's like, honey, what do you think? I'm really, and I tend to get hangry. So that's
Right.
like the worst. Like, don't talk to me. Like, if I'm hangry, I'm like blind and I can't even think about what we're going to eat. But all I know is that I need some food in my body. So back to clients, like a lot of people aren't getting the nutrition that they ideally want because of planning.
Right.
So
That's true.
oftentimes we'll sit down and say, maybe your goal is to sit down and plan your meals. And maybe we'll just start with breakfast or start with lunch or start with dinner. Because if you're feeding the whole family, do you know what you're having for dinner this week? No idea.
Yeah. It's
And
it's so go ahead.
well, with social media, when people think about meal planning or meal prep, they're picturing the 20-year-old that's cooking for hours and hours on a Sunday and has their prepackaged meals like chicken and rice every single day. Oh my God, that sounds so boring. But that's not realistic for many people, you know. But most of the time, people are like life is happening to them. So when we have a client, that's concerned about nutrition, we'll just say, well, how about you plan some meals this week? Sit down on a Sunday and plan your meal. Because when you think about meal planning and meal prep, there's multi steps. Find out what you want, find out what the ingredients are. Do you have those ingredients? Make the list, go shopping, and then you start the meal prep. So we've got little cheat sheets to get people started. And once people begin to plan, then they feel less stress. Like, oh, this is what we're having on Monday. This is what we're having on Wednesday. Maybe we'll have a family dinner like out somewhere on Friday. All of a sudden, their stress levels are way down.
Yeah, that's a huge part of it, I think.
Mhm.
And it's so funny because when I grew up, I remember my mom would make these lists every single week. She would plan our family meals out every single week. Not for the reason we're talking about, but for basically from a shopping perspective.
Yeah.
And they
Mhm.
remember they used to cut coupons and everything back then. It's like that's why they would be making this list of, meals out for the week. So it would help save her time at the grocery store. She could maybe buy things that might be on sale or whatever were around where she's planning the meal maybe around what's in the circular that week or whatever. I don't know. But I used to think it was so funny. I'm like, oh my God, I'm never going to do that when I grow up, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's like, like who wants to be so planned and blah, blah, blah. And it's funny because, when you come from a fitness perspective and looking at it from the perspective of you're trying to maybe make strength gains or you're trying to, lose weight, or you're trying to, get leaner, drop your body fat percentage, whatever, you have to do this. Like
Yeah.
there's no negotiation, because like you cannot, not have exactly what you need planned out every single day. Not from the only from the perspective of knowing what you're going to make, but having the stuff on hand to be able to make the meals.
Exactly.
It's
Yep.
so important. And it does reduce stress in the end. You're absolutely right. I can't tell you how many times when I didn't plan that I would be so stressed out that I didn't have like enough protein in the house or whatever I needed, like, the particular carbohydrate that I wanted. And it was like, oh my God. So, well, forget it. I'm not going to make that. I'll just grab this, which ended
Yeah.
up not being the right like macronutrients that I needed. And then I'm wondering why I'm not getting to my goal.
Yeah, the whole like I'm gonna grab this. You know what you usually grab? Something that's shelf stable, something that's like totally calorically dense, but not nutrient dense. So we talk about like great things. I think they're exciting things like batch cooking your proteins. If you have, let's say you eat meat and you're gonna make a bunch of chicken, make a bunch of it, and then you can have it for one meal one night and then repurpose it for another meal. So you're not eating the same boring stuff over and over. You can really think about, your protein, your carbs, your veggies, and have those available.
Right.
Little hacks like cutting up your veggies, putting them in Pyrex. You can see them in the fridge. That way, your kids need a snack. Look, our job is to eat these veggies. That's your job. Go ahead and do that.
I love
But
that.
a little bit of planning helps you make that nutrient dense food more available to you, because what's around you, you're going to eat. So you may as
Right.
well take the time to plan what's around you and invest the time to make it, ready to eat.
Yeah. And we're talking a lot about diet and nutrition here. And I know that one of the things that that you really emphasize is to help women break free from societal pressure and embrace a more empowering mindset over, what they're eating and their nutrition and all of that. But I think what we're trying to say here is that it's more about the planning than it
Yeah.
is like worrying about, exact that like you said before, oh, I have to eat grilled chicken and rice every night and broccoli.
Mhm.
Like, no, you don't.
No.
And getting back to, not worrying so much about that number on the scale, because as you build muscle, yeah, you might gain weight. And so really you can't be so concerned about what that number is. It's more about how are your clothes fitting, like you said before. So it's so important, I think, and I love what you're doing, that you're helping women with that more empowering mindset.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that too. And then with the strength training, they really begin to think about, well, how am I fueling myself? I want to have enough energy to make this workout the best that I can. I don't want to become Weight Watchers. I don't want to become Noom, because we're more than just what we put in our bodies, or we become like infatuated with that. But if we can think about food as, am I getting enough to fuel my body? Am I getting enough so I have enough energy to get through the workout or to get through work, or is this going to help me sleep better? Really thinking about food as, yes, fuel, but also something enjoyable. How are you eating? We could go down that rabbit hole too. Are you eating with friends and, eating slowly, enjoying that food, tasting it? I used to be very nervous about getting foodies, as clients. I'm like, oh my God, they're going to think I'm cutting out their food. No, foodies will actually sit down and enjoy a meal.
That's true. That might be an easier client for sure.
It typically tends to be an easier client, but at the
I
beginning,
love it.
I was very nervous.
Yep, I love it. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be talking more with Julie Bailis. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. We're back on the Dr. Diane Show with me, Dr. Diane Hayden. You can learn more about me at www.drdianehayden.com. And I'm talking today with Julie Bailis. You can learn more about her at www.mvwct.com. That's spelled M as in mountain, V as in view, W as in wellness, C as in cat, T as in Tom.com. So one of the things I wanted to ask you about that I know you do at your practice, Mountain View Wellness, is that you have a coaching collective. So can you explain how this, like what that is, how this benefits your clients?
Yeah, I love my coaching collective. In fact, on Wednesdays, we have our coaching calls and it's amazing. So, anybody in the fitness field, personal trainers, coaches, recognize that you can be in a vacuum. You could spend all day with your clients and then no colleagues at all. And I believe, again, community, that having a larger community makes me a better coach.
Yeah.
So it was about last year that I started the coaching collective because number one, I was running out of me. I was getting these clients and I didn't have enough me's to clone. I encouraged some of my coaches or clients at that time to go ahead, get this coaching, certificate. And if you do, we'll make this coaching collective and help women, take control of their lives. Um, I have 3 coaches that are amazing, and they each bring something new to the table. They all have their strengths that I don't have. Not everybody wants me as a coach. Maybe they do. I don't know. So when I get a new client, they get their one-to-one coach, and I choose which one would be most relevant. Do they have arthritis? Do they have a history of fat loss? Are they a cancer survivor? All of these things go into how I choose their health coach. And then just as a coaching collective, we are able to do more. We're all very passionate about getting out into the community. So like locally, we're signing up for $1, we're volunteering for $1 spaghetti dinners at our local, like at a local church, and they serve dollar dinners. And that's something that we want to do together. So the collective helps our clients because they have access to 4 different coaches, but it also helps us reach our community, and we feel more supported because we support each other.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. So how could someone be a part of that?
As a coach or as a member?
As a coach.
Reach out to me. We will be hiring probably. So just shoot me an email. I do prefer people that are certified through Precision Nutrition, level 2 coaching. I encouraged my coaches to go ahead and get that because we all have the same kind of base of training, and we all kind of speak the same language. So it's really nice.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is awesome. Cool. So for someone who's listening, if they feel stuck or unsure about where to start on their journey, what are 3 small steps that you would suggest they could take?
I have them written down, but I'm going to switch the order because I really think the number 1 is just the start.
Okay.
And that would be get moving, move more, walk. Even if it's from here to the stop sign outside of your house. That's how actually I started walking. I used to, I would strength train, but then I realized when I looked at my steps, I was pretty much sedentary. When I wasn't working out, I wasn't doing anything else. And I thought, this is low hanging fruit, Jules. Like I moved more, I would increase my metabolism. I would be more active. I would be happier, probably help with some body recomposition as well, and just give me a break from the day-to-day stress. Right. So I started begrudgingly walking my dog to the stop sign, and I would complain, nope, it's walking this dog, I guess I'll this dog, darn it. And then it turned into I get to walk my dog, and we're going to go to that next stop sign, and then we're going to go. So it just started, this habit just started, and now it's just something that I do and I enjoy it. So I would say walk more, be more active on the daily, and it could be, do it with a partner, walk after dinner with your spouse. That's a huge one, right? So walking daily, definitely.
Okay.
Number 2, strength train. Surprise, surprise. I'm saying that. Strength train. Find a trainer if so many people are concerned they're going to hurt themselves. So find a trainer, learn the basics. If people want to go to a class to start, go for it. I got nothing wrong with classes. I mean, I'm a huge proponent of a custom program, but start where you're at. I'm not going to judge you or say, no, this is only one way. Just start training. So that's 2. 2 days a week would be great. But if 2 days is too much, start with 1.
Right.
And then the last one is to really kind of think about how much protein you're eating. Try to have protein at each meal. I guess step 1 would be ask yourself, what am I doing now? How much protein am I getting? And then try to have at least 1 serving at each meal.
It is amazing how many people think they're eating enough protein and aren't. I mean, like I've sat down with my girlfriends or my mom or whatever, and people are like, oh, I eat protein. I'm getting enough protein. And they're getting 30 grams a day.
A day.
I mean, I told you guys how much I weigh. I eat close to 70 to 80 grams of protein, sometimes more a day. And people are like, what? I couldn't possibly do that. I'm like, yes, you can.
And it keeps you fuller, right?
Totally.
So you're just super full. I mean, I actually, on the other end, I remember training for a meet and, my protein requirements were really up there. I was like, I can't even eat anymore. This is not okay. I did that for a little while, but I would prefer people listen to their bodies and not force anything in one direction or another. But protein is very filling. So oftentimes when people are eating crackers or whatever, they're just not getting satisfied. That's why you can eat more. I mean, that's how they're invented. My favorite saying was somebody said, ooh, processed food. You know what that tastes like? It tastes like more.
Oh my God, that is a great tagline for sure. Yep. We could have a whole nother podcast on the food industry, I'm sure.
Oh, let's do it.
So before we end, we just have a couple more minutes. I want to know, what is next for you and Mountain View Wellness? Do you have any big projects or things for 2025?
Yeah, so we just moved to this new space, and we'll be partnering with the gym, and we'll be offering our programs to a larger population at this gym. It's actually a climbing gym.
Cool. Where are you?
We're in New Haven, Connecticut.
Okay, awesome.
And I'm coming full circle because I actually started my first fitness journey as a rock climbing instructor.
Oh my God, how funny is that?
I'm coming back full circle, and one of the owners of the gym is somebody I used to coach with. So,
oh, that's so cool.
Very special.
So you have a new space. Awesome. You're partnering with the gym.
Yeah. And we plan on dabbling into corporate wellness.
Yeah.
For health coaching, and doing more in our local community.
Hey, that's really cool. Are you doing anything virtual or not?
Yeah. So the virtual would be the corporate wellness and health coaching. So we can absolutely do health coaching virtually. So reach out if you have group. It's always more fun when we get a big group together.
Yeah. And what's the best way to connect with you? I mean, obviously, the website, mvwct.com. Right. But how else can people connect with you?
People can reach out to me via email, julie@mvwct.com.
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah. And to ask questions about potentially being a client of yours, and then also if people are interested if someone who's a coach who's interested in the coaching collective, they can reach out to you that way too.
Absolutely. Definitely.
Awesome. Well, this has been so much fun. Like I said, it's one of my favorite topics, just, helping. I love what you're doing because it is just so needed for women to understand why they should be strength training, how important it is, especially as we get older, and everything we talked about just with nutrition and getting more protein and all that. So everything that you're doing is amazing. And I think you're building a really cool community.
Thank you. I'm happy. I'm so thrilled to be able to do this.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty amazing, just like how our journeys go, how our paths go, and you've kind of come full circle with that and stuff. So, but thank you for everything you're doing, and thank you for being on the show and all this great information.
Thank you for having me. It's been really fun.
Awesome. Awesome. And I want to thank all of you for tuning into the Dr. Diane Show. Please join me the first and third Thursdays at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. Next time on our show, we will just be discussing more about the power of thoughts and beliefs and the impact they have on your life. Have a great week, and I'll see you back here next time. Thank you for tuning into the Dr. Diane Show, revolutionary expansion of mind, body, and soul with me, Dr. Diane Hayden. Tune in every Thursday at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern on transformationtalkradio.com. Center your thoughts on what you want and shut the door on every suggestion of fear, worry, or lack from your own consciousness or the consciousness around you. Once you master that, everything is possible. To learn more about me, Dr. Diane, and receive a free digital subscription of my magazine, visit naturalnutmeg.com.